Quick game was very, very big to what we were doing. It was obviously a lot easier 20 years ago with people playing single high and soft corners, and over the years with the changes on defense and people not playing as much single high coverage anymore, playing cover two and doing different things defensively. Coaches have had to be pretty creative in terms of how to still get the ball out and how to make the quick game effective. A lot of people are using the quick game because it's still fairly dynamic. It's simple in terms of the reads, but it's a lot more difficult to get the ball to the playmakers with what defenses are doing, especially with the corners, outside linebackers, and safeties. So what we did the last few years is we studied, I guess we call it a best practice approach, what some of the better teams were doing and how they were incorporating the quick game into their offense, and gave us a lot of great ideas of still how to make it a big part of what we're doing. So firstly, just want to talk a little bit about our offensive philosophy and how it fits in. And we always believe in, we want to get the ball, we want to throw the ball around a bit. We're fairly balanced, but it really comes down to being physical. We're a shotgun, no huddle, fast tempo offense. We're going to force the defense as much as possible to play pretty vanilla in their fronts and their coverages. We want to get over 70 snaps and 400 yards a game. We've got very wide splits on the offensive line, so we'll cut them down to 3 feet and go as wide as 5 feet at times. And we call it a smart split philosophy or a smart split principle. It really has a lot to do with the play and what we're trying to do to the defense. So there's a little bit of flexibility in their splits. We're multiple formations, so we'll go 2x2, 3x1, 3x2, 4x1. Also incorporate 2 tight ends into our sets, compressed formations, and unbalanced. But with all of that, we run very few schemes. So when we're trying to think of being successful, we're thinking of, how to get the ball to our best playmakers and get them the touches that they need, not necessarily scheming or trying to out-scheme people. The plays relate to the playmakers. Okay, how can we get this guy the ball in different ways? So keeping it simple, we'll dress things up, but we try not to overdo it and put too much on our players. We want them to be able to play fast. We want the defense to cover the entire width and length of the field. We want to make them wrong by what they're doing by incorporating paired runs and quick passes, so RPOs, and advanced quick game concepts as well, which I'll discuss. We try to manipulate defenders as much as possible with both our tempo, our formations, and our RPOs. And, huge thing in what we do is we want to take care of the football. And I think that's probably been one of the biggest reasons why we've been so successful the past few years, is just winning the turnover margin in a huge way. We make our communication system extremely simple for the players. We signal things in. It's just usually one or a couple hand signals, and we're off and running. And with regards to the quarterback, we make our reads as simple as possible for the QB. We call it the iPhone approach, and that's something that I got from Troy Taylor, the offensive coordinator at Utah, who used to be the head coach at Folsom. One of the great things about the iPhone is it's complex, but yet it's so simple. Anybody, any age, can take it out of the case and start working with it right away. And that's kind of what we try to do with our quarterback, is we make the game simple for him. We don't bog him down with concepts that are insanely difficult. And then lastly we want to play catch with a single wide receiver whenever the defense allows. Some of the guys that have been influences and guys that I've used as resources. So all the stuff that I'll be talking about has probably been discussed or taken from these guys at some point or another. Coach Matt Logan, who's been terrific and very helpful and allowed us into his program, head coach at Corona Centennial here in Southern California. Rick Jones out in Arkansas at Greenwood High School, head football coach. Andrew Coverdale and Dan Robinson were probably 2 of the first influences on me, reading their 3 volumes of their quick game, which was really an eye-opener of how to do things and keep things simple and use some simple concepts in a variety of ways. And I've since had a chance to bring Andrew in at one point and pick his brain. Dan Gonzalez, who's had things out on the internet and has a system of the way that he believes in passing and reading. Troy Taylor, who I mentioned, the offensive coordinator at Utah, and then lastly, both Darren Slack and Dub Maddox with their R4 system. In our offense, this is pretty much our base offense right here. Things that are in white and outlined in red, those are the plays that actually involve quick game concepts in them. So it may look like quite a few plays to begin with, but if we look at our base runs, we have in our base runs we have two different families of schemes there. We have what most people would refer to, ours is slightly a little different, but a zone scheme where we're gonna run inside or outside and read a player, and then we run a power toss scheme, which is basically down blocking on the play side and pulling two guys to get them out on the edge, and that's our run scheme. So in our run scheme, we can either read an end, we can read an outside linebacker, we can read an inside linebacker and throw off of those guys. And then we also run stretch and jet, which both utilize the same scheme as well. In our base passes, we've got quick game, which we can mirror on both sides, and we don't do a ton of that anymore, and I'll explain why, but it's still pretty useful. We have a front side and backside concept where you'll have a quick game on one of those sides. Also, spacing has been pretty big for us, and it's a modification of curl flat where you're reading a guy. And then if you take a look down at the bottom left there with our movement passes, we have a dash pass, which also incorporates the quick game on one side with a bootleg concept on the other. And then obviously, some other things to protect what we're doing with screens, both fast and slow screens, and some vertical passes and gadgets to have some fun. So that's pretty much our base offense right there. We don't really install new things during the season. If it's something that we haven't practiced or a scheme that's not in, we won't incorporate it during the season. There's 4 different ways that we actually try to incorporate our quick game. So the first one is just pure quick game, and that's the old school, and I'll show you in a bit some video of this, but pure quick game where people are running slants and hitches and quick outs and mirroring it. We'll also pair our quick game with a run game, so we can either pre-snap RPO, people are calling it, or post-snap RPO. So in our pre-snap RPO, it's really based on numbers, leverage of defenders, and are there any possible gifts. So we can pre-snap to a single side or pre-snap to a trip side or a 2x2 side, and we're going to identify where do we have the numbers, and that'll determine if we're going to run or pass, or do we have leverage on defenders, and that'll determine if we're going to get the ball out and have an advantage. Let's say on the trip side, they only have one defender out there, and that would give us an indication that we're going to be able to throw the ball, even though we have a run play called, throw the ball out there because we're going to outnumber them out on the edge with the inside guys having to commit to the run. Or if we have a corner on his own on an island without a support linebacker outside and he's playing soft, we would consider that a gift. And in that case, it's just like backyard football. Let's play pitch and catch. We also have our post-snap RPO, which is based on numbers. Do we outnumber them in the box? But it's also based on movement of defenders that we're not blocking, and we'll throw off of those guys, and I'll show you some of that as well. And those are all quick game concepts that are built into the run. So things that people are probably doing, but maybe just another way to consider it and part of your offense. We also have a quick game paired with mid-level pass concept where we'll have a quick game on one side and a mid-level pass concept on the other. And we take into consideration when we're putting those plays together, we have to take into consideration how the quarterback's going to move his eyes and feet into the direction of the late breaking routes. And then lastly, we have what people would call a dash pass, where we'll have a single quick game route with one receiver, with the other receivers running a bootleg concept. And if the quick game isn't there, the quarterback gets to dash out of the pocket with protection built into that. So those are 4 different ways that we're incorporating the quick game in our offense. Before we dive right into the quick game, I want to talk to you guys about how we actually read and the types of reads that we have in our offense. Well, we believe that there's 3 different types of reads that the quarterback will make. And at some point in our offense, he's gonna use one of these, and in some cases they're even combined. So the first one's called just a simple progression read, where you've put together your pass concept, and you're reading first to second to third guy based on coverage, and you're looking to receiver 1, 2, and 3, and your feet and your eyes are timing into that. The second one is what we would call an object receiver route, which basically says we're throwing to this receiver in the concept unless he's invaded by a defender. So if the defender invades him, depending on which direction he's coming from, that would be the way that we'd go to our second guy in that concept. And then third one is something that's probably most popular, is the key defender read. And that's where you look at a defender and you throw opposite as reaction, and that could be horizontal or vertically. And quick game would be one example of a key defender read. We can also combine a key defender read in our quick game on one side with the mid-level concept, as I mentioned, on the other side, to essentially now give the quarterback a full field read. So that would be a form of an advanced progression read for us. And it gives us answers and allows us to stay one step ahead of the defense. One of the things, again, that, the standard quick game served the purpose, but with the mirrored routes is it would not give you an out if the quarterback, had his receivers locked up on one side, or they had an answer on one side. We have a specific vocabulary that we like to use with our quarterbacks and receivers, and this was a big eye opener, something that really helped me out from Andrew Coverdale. So when we're talking about pre-snap decision terms, we'll use covered down or uncovered. So we want to know if guys are covered, if the defense is honoring our receivers or not. If the inside receiver has no defender within 5 yards of him, we consider him uncovered. And there's different ways we can get him the ball. We can get him the ball, with hot principles, sight adjustment principles, or quick game concepts. If we have 2 inside receivers that have only 1 underneath defender over them, we consider them uncovered as a pair. And then with our outside receiver to the short side, if there's no corner within 7 yards, so if they're playing super soft coverage on that side, we'd consider him uncovered. And again, we'd want to use some sort of quick game concept. Or to the field, the corner, we would have to have that corner off at 10 yards, just because, it's going to take the ball that much longer to get there. So that extra 3 yards will help us out. So that's a big thing for us, when we're talking to our quarterbacks and receivers, were you covered or uncovered? And guys understand, what the limits are and how many yards we're looking at. So here's an example right here. If you take a look at the outside linebacker, or, the alley player there, who we've identified as B, is over top of S, our slot, we would consider him, he's covered down. Now, in this case, you see he's creeping to the box. Now we would consider that receiver, because he's not within 5 yards of that receiver, we would consider him uncovered. And then when we look at the 2 inside receivers as a pair, so in this example, this is now trips, and there's 1 defender, B, over top of S and Y alone. As a pair, we would consider them uncovered. And then we have another term that we'll use to the single receiver side, and that's clean or dirty. And this just tells us if there's a defender in the alley or not. So clean to us means that there's no defender in the alley, and that receiver is one-on-one with the corner, so that there's no force player in the alley. Dirty means that there's an overhang linebacker, or there's a safety in the alley in position to help out. And then here's some diagrams. So in this case, we would talk to our receiver, and the receiver would come to the sidelines and say, "Hey, coach, we're clean. We're good to go." And this just tells me, okay, there's no defender in the alley. And obviously there's things that we can do both in the run game and the pass game to attack that. And then in the second one, here's a linebacker in the alley. So you've got a corner over top of the single wide receiver. There's a linebacker in the alley. There's a free safety over the top in the middle of the field. But in this case, we would just, identify that outside linebacker, or that area, as being called dirty. And then now here's a safety who's down. Again, it doesn't matter what position the player plays. It'll be a linebacker, a safety, a nickel. And if he's in the alley, we'll just say it's dirty. The alley is dirty. And then from there, we have subcategories of clean and dirty. And this helps us to describe our access. So it describes the side by indicating now what the depth of the corner is, and it relates to whether we can get the ball to that single receiver in the quick game without incorporating a running back out of the backfield. So in the case of clean, where there's no alley defender, we would have free, which means soft corner. So if we get soft corner and free side, that tells us we're good to go. We want to play a lot of catch with that wide receiver throughout the game when they're doing that.